prosecute them. And that is tonight's commentary from The Edge. Now, joining me this time is in the studio is cybersecurity expert Michael Dougherty. Michael, welcome back to the show.
Good to see you, Rick.
First time in studio. It's good to have you. How concerned are you about this news with the Russians?
Well, I'm concerned because it really wasn't a sophisticated hit. It's what you call a rat. It's remote surveillance because they just went on a fishing expedition. These are hackers. This is what they do. They look for something last October in the State Department. They found a State Department email. Then they just keep persevering. They find an email ID and they send in that information, and someone eventually is going to open an email thinking it's from a friend of theirs, and they're going to open an attachment, and there goes the surveillance. That's the rat gets in the door.
As you say, it's not sophisticated. I mean, you would think that employees at a State Department, and certainly the White House, would know better than open a phishing email.
That's exactly right. And yet the White House and the State Department are only as good as their weakest employee. So that boils down to knowledge and training. And, you know, and here's a government that is attacking companies for having weaknesses, and then look what just happened. And then it just continues. Once they're in the door in the State Department, then they look for a White House email, and they do the same thing. Then they're in. And it's just a matter of time before someone slips. And it's tough. It's the mouse in between the elephant's toes.
Are we doing this to the Russians?
I should hope so. Because all's fair in love and war, but I would assume so. But we're not going to hear anything about that.
Now, how confident are you that it is the Russians? I mean, I asked that question because we were wrong about North Korea and Sony, it turns out. There was a Sony disgruntled employee. And of course, you mentioned this is not very sophisticated, but sophisticated hackers can make it appear as if the hack is coming from a different originator.
Well, that's true. Obviously, we're not absolutely 100% sure, but I would say the odds go very high that it's either North Korea, China, or Russia. That's who does this routinely, and that's who's got the most self-interest to get in there, and that's who's going to be as relentless as anybody else.
Well, might this open a door for more government control over the internet?
Well, that's the backfire of it, right? Because they're not going to take accountability for what they've done here. They're just going to blame everybody else. And that's the danger when this goes on. Is the problem is you've got the wrong people trying to defend us. You don't send a bunch of government lawyers to defend really a cyber military issue here. And they're sending lawyers in regular, like the FCC, the FTC. That's not who should play this game, but that's who's trying to play.
Who should be played?
Well, it's a military gig. I mean, this is national security, and the government's responsibility is to help private enterprise and work with them to defend the nation.
All right. Now, what raises a lot of red flags to a lot of people is that the first thing you mentioned out of the gate, that this phishing expedition, if you will, this email started in the State Department. We all know that Hillary Clinton was in the State Department prior, perhaps, to when this occurred, and we know the controversy she's going through with her private email server. How prone is someone like a Hillary Clinton who moved her data to a private server? How prone is she, or vulnerable is the word I'm looking for? How vulnerable is she to a sophisticated attack?
Well, she's more vulnerable than most because she's so high profile. I mean, that's who they're going to go after. They want to get high value targets, but she's not more educated in technology than anybody else, obviously, because she unwittingly took a huge risk. I mean, the issue probably was selfishness and protection in front of and over the country, but she clearly didn't have knowledge. And this is who the leaders are. This is part of the weakness of what's going on now.
Some of the defenders of Hillary are saying, well, this is good news because she had moved her information onto a private server. There's no way the Russians could have known this, or highly unlikely. Do you agree with that or not?
No, not at all. I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, she got hacked other ways. I mean, other people got it, went into her server. I mean, it's what's in the pot, not where the pot is. And that really doesn't matter.
Switching gears now, a Singapore telecommunications company known as SingTel is acquiring a U.S. cybersecurity firm for over $810 million. It has to be approved by U.S. government agencies. This overall theme, strategic assets being acquired or managed overseas by a foreign government or a foreign private company, has always been a controversial subject throughout American history. How concerned are you about this particular situation?
Well, I mean, cybersecurity is where the big money is going to go because it's fear, uncertainty, and doubt right now. And then TrustWave's got a good reputation, but a pretty small market share, so you're not going to get into antitrust issues. And that's when these big dogs, or even medium dogs, can come in and not even $1 billion. And yet that's a very smart, long-term move on that company. But look where the power is going. I mean, the internet is borderless, and this is going to continue. And this is part of the problem battling the bad guys. But it's a smart business move because it's going to get only bigger.
Smart business move, but are you concerned about cyber security being overseen by a foreign company?
Well, absolutely, because they have access to the inside of what they're looking at. And again, it's the weakest link is the worst person, the most untrained, the criminal. It just takes one, and that's the hard part about all this centralization of information. And then the downside is it's easy to get if you got one person piercing.
Prediction, will the government approve it, U.S. government?
Yeah, they'll approve it.
All right.
It's too small.
Michael Daugherty, cybersecurity expert, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.